Amen. So, today we want to look at man's place within God's sovereignty. When we began, we talked about three major topics. And that was, we dealt with some challenging scriptures in Romans 9. And then we talked about the sovereignty of God, the nature of God according to God, not according to man. And then today we want to treat man's place within God's sovereignty. Man's place within God's sovereignty. So that is what we want to look at now. The last thing we said concerning sovereignty a few weeks ago was that sovereignty does not mean that God does whatever he wants because he's sovereign. The sovereignty of God does not mean that God does whatever he wants because he is sovereign. Rather, he does whatever he wants within the confines of law because he is sovereign. Do you get that? So, the sovereignty of God does not mean that because he is sovereign, he does whatever he wants. Rather, he does whatever he wants, but within the confines of law. Because of his sovereignty. Amen? Because there is the belief, there is the understanding with some that because God is sovereign, he does whatever he wants. If that was the case, thinking of how the Israelites tormented, if I should even use that way, how they tormented God. If God does whatever he wants, he wouldn't even have said to Moses, Moses, get away from there, let me kill these people. He would have done it before even telling Moses. Because he doesn't need permission from Moses. Do you understand that? But Moses says, if you do that, what would your enemies say? So, although God is sovereign, he does whatever he wants, but within the confines of law. That is the reason why when he as spirit, when he was coming down to save mankind, he had to obey the laws that he himself had put in place. And that is, you must be born to become a legal citizen of this earth. If you are not born of a woman, you are not legal. But so if God, being sovereign, would do whatever he wanted to do, he would have disobeyed the laws that he himself had put in place. Am I making sense? But Jesus had to be born. Jesus had to go through the laws that God himself had put in place, not because God was powerless, but it is because God in his sovereignty would not violate his laws. Yes? Please keep this in mind. Good. If you want to write this down, please do. It will help you. God isn't sovereign because of his lordship. God isn't sovereign because of his lordship, but because of the fact that no one can change whatever he's put in place. Let me say it again. God is not sovereign because of his lordship. And this is a quote by promise. So if you want to quote this, say this is a quote from promise. Yes? This is my quote. God is not sovereign because of his lordship. God is sovereign because of the fact that nobody can change the things he's put in place. Yes? Another quote from Promise. What use is sovereignty if that which is put in place by a sovereign can be changed by another person at will? Let me say it again. Another quote from Promise. What use is sovereignty? What use is lordship if what a sovereign has put in place can be changed by someone else? Someone comes along the line and says, "Oh, I don't like what sovereign Joe Paff has put in place. I will change it." What use is that sovereignty to him if someone can come and change what he's put in place? You get what I'm saying? That's why I said sovereignty is not in lordship, but it's in the fact that whatever you put in place, no one can change. That is what sovereignty is. This is a quote from Promise again. If you want to quote me, you add the name. All right? Another quote from Promise. Sovereignty isn't power without control. Sovereignty isn't power without control. It is power used within the confines of law. So this one too, you add Promise over there. That's my quote. All right? So let's turn to our Bibles to Genesis 1:26. This is a verse, especially the young adults know I love very much. You guys know that. I love this verse so much. Then God said, "Let us make man in our image according to our likeness. Let them have dominion." Let who have dominion? Let who? He says, let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the air, and over the cattle, over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps on the earth. Verse 28. Then God blessed them, and God said to them, "Be fruitful and multiply. Fill the earth and subdue it. Have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the air, and over every living thing that moves on the earth." God created the earth and everything that is in it. Do we agree? God created the earth and everything that is in it. Now listen to this. God also subjected all things to fixed laws. What did we say about what profit or what use is sovereignty? If a sovereign can put something in place and another would come and change it at will. What use is sovereignty? So if God created the heavens and the earth, why is the heavens and the earth still exist? Why is it still there? Can we reason together? Why is it still there? Why is it still there? And why is it that the things that God put in place are still there till this day? Why? Because He created laws to govern them. That's right. He created laws to govern them. So all these things are being governed by laws. And these laws, no one can change it because of his sovereignty. Do you understand that? Yes? Excellent. I like that. So, had God not subjected all things to fixed laws, it would have been impossible to dominate or manage the earth. Is that right? If God had not subjected everything, if he had not subjected everything to fixed laws, it would have been difficult to manage. That's right. Because he subjected everything to laws. Everything is subjected to laws. And no one can change it. You can't change it. No matter the scientific advancement that we do, the basis of what God has created shall always stand. Amen. Because he, the sovereign God, has subjected them to laws that cannot be changed. Amen. I want us to, I'm going slowly because you should know me by now that I'm not the type who talks to your emotions. I'm the type who talks to your mind. That is my calling. It is not to make you excited. It is to make you think. That is my calling. Yes? So I know you know that by now. You should know that by now. How do we know these laws? One, by knowing the mind of God through his word. How do we know these laws that God has put in place? It is to know the mind of God through his word. So if you want to know how these laws operate, go back into his word. His word is his mind. His word is what he thinks. Words are gathered thoughts. Do you understand that? So how do we know these laws? One, by knowing his mind through his word. Two, by studying the things he has made, his creation. By studying the things he has made. Because when God created these things, he put within these things the laws that govern them. So if you study the things that he has made, you will discover the laws that govern them. And that is what scientists do. Scientists do not create anything. They discover things that have been placed there by God. They don't create anything. They only discover. They reveal. They uncover. They make known to us that, hey, there is something there. Yes? So, how do we know these laws? One, by studying the things that he has made. And the first one is what? Through his word. This is the purpose for education. This is the main reason why we go to school. Because education is actually meant to expose you to the fixed laws that govern life. Education is meant to expose to you the fixed laws that govern life. We can either say fixed laws or absolutes. 2 weeks ago, I was having a discussion with Naj out there. We were talking about her course. And I said, Naj, when you finish your course, can I borrow your certificate and work with your certificate? And she went, yes, uncle, we can do that. And I went, yes, let's do it. So when you finish, you give me your certificate and I'll present your certificate to anyone that I meet. I'll tell them, this is my certificate. This is me. And they would say, you should be a girl. And I said, Naj, this is where we would start the conversation. I will say to them, why is it that when it comes to certain areas, you say there are no absolutes? You say a male can decide that for some reason he was trapped into a female body. Therefore, his birth certificate no longer holds valid. He or she, he is now a she. Because he decides that he is now a she. Now, if they can accept that, then they should also accept my certificate. Because I also have accepted that from today forward, I am no longer promised, I am Naj. And she said, uncle, that makes sense, you know. I said, yes. If you think there are no absolutes in life, then there should not be absolutes anywhere else. Don't tell me that, under certain circumstances, now even they don't even know, they are even going, it was LGBTQ, is now something, they are adding, and they are adding, and they are adding. They are adding and adding. Why? Because they are taking the absolutes in life away. So everything goes. Please, I'm begging you, in life there are absolutes. Naj understood where I was going. I said, so Naj, I'm waiting for a certificate. That is a deal? She said, yes, it's a deal. So you wait, when Naj finishes, Naj is no longer going to be Naj. She is going to be promised, and I'm going to be Naj. And I will present her certificate. I will present her certificate to a workplace, and they should dare challenge me. Do you understand why I'm saying this? There are absolutes in life. The sovereign God put these absolutes in place, and no one can change it. That is what makes him sovereign. Jason, you get me? Kofi, are you getting me? Yes? You've understood me, yes? Excellent. So, the purpose of education is to expose you to the fixed laws or the absolutes that govern life. So, what Uncle Ojam is studying, accounting, and Uncle Ojam has been writing exams. Anytime I call Uncle Ojam, he's studying for an exams. I tell you, this guy, you are a cracker. Everything he is studying, he's been exposed to the absolutes that govern the life of accounting. Are you getting me? When the doctor goes to school, the doctor is being exposed to absolutes that govern that field. That is the purpose of education. Please, you did not get your certificate just to become one of everybody. You went to school and you were given a certificate because they are certifying that you have been exposed to the laws that govern the field that you went to study. So, please, don't just be a maintenance man or a maintenance woman. Start bringing out solutions, because you have the laws that govern the field that you have been certified. Are you getting what I'm saying? Even in this age, I was saying this to Samuel and Junior. I said, this age, you should never be referred. No. Because you've got all the helps on your phone. You don't have to make any journey to any library. And there were times when the opportunities you guys have now, people in all didn't have. They have to travel to a library, and the books that they have to read cover a whole length of a building, and they have to do that. They have to physically make a journey. You sit in your bedrooms, and then you just Google, and you have the information either on your laptop or on your phone, and you are being referred. No. They are watching, they said something, Love Island. Sorry, is there a new one? New? Oh, YouTube. Even today, you can learn so much from YouTube, because there's so much education in YouTube. That wasn't the case a few years ago. You have to physically get the book, open the book. Sometimes you go to a library, they'll say someone else has the book. Someone has borrowed the book. So you have to wait till the book comes in before you do your research. You have to copy pages. Young ones, I'm saying this to you because, listen, you should be doing better in this age, because you've got it so easy. Sometimes you don't value it. That's the purpose of education. You are exposed to the laws that govern life. Have I challenged you enough? God created the tree, but never made any wooden product. Who created the tree? But who made the table? Are you getting what I'm saying? God created the tree, and God subjected the tree to fixed laws, so the carpenter with his imagination can manage the tree. So without God putting that fixed laws within the tree, the carpenter has a certain measurement in his mind, because he wants a particular table. So he decides, cuts the tree, does everything. He has a measurement in mind, does the measurement, goes to pick another tool, comes back. The tree says, I refuse to be 5 meters. I decide to be 2 meters. So the tree changes the laws that have been put in place in it and says, come on, what do you mean? Why should I be 5 meters? Like me, if I want to be tall, I can decide in my mind, why am I this height? I want to be tall. So I just decide to be tall. I'm telling you the desires of my heart. You know, If wishes were horses, promise will ride one. Just to keep us awake. Are we thinking God created the tree, but it was man who made the table? Because God put 6 laws in the tree so that the imagination that man had would not change. Because the 6 laws are fixed by a sovereign God. They cannot change. The sovereign God created a tree and then subjected it to certain fixed laws so we can manage it and therefore successfully make out of it things we desire. God created the iron ore, but he never made any metallic product. God made the iron ore, the raw material, but God never made any metallic product. It wasn't God who made this. Man made it. How was he able to manage the iron ore? Because he studied the laws that govern the iron ore. He realized that if I'm able to do this and that, because of the laws that govern iron ore, I will get a product like this. And if I'm able to get a product like this, the imagination that I've got in my mind is possible. I'm going somewhere. So you prepare. But do you all agree so far? Man did this. This was in someone's mind. But he had to learn the laws that govern the metal, bending metal. If the person didn't know this, he would destroy it instead of making it good. Yes? So God made the iron ore. God made the raw material. But we use the raw material and we manage it. So when God said, subdue the earth, manage the earth, dominate the earth, the sea, the fish. Look, you go to the Netherlands. Majority of the Netherlands was covered with water. And then man, because he is supreme, reclaimed the land from the sea. He said, I want to build. So he reclaimed the land and he built on the land that used to be covered by sea. Why? Because they studied the laws that govern. That is why you go to school. Don't go to school, get a certificate and become a maintenance man. Unfortunately, the African, we've got so many graduates, but we still bring people from China, people from where, to come and build our roads for us. And these same people have also been to the university and they've got their certificates. They've been exposed to the same laws that these people have been exposed to. So why aren't we able to do it? Because we are being trained to maintain and not to also create based on the same laws that these people have been exposed to. God created crude oil. Do we know that? But God never made an engine oil. Yes? God created the crude oil. But man studied the laws that God has put in the crude oil. And he made something that he wanted out of crude oil. Are you getting what I'm saying? And then, at a certain level, they realize, hey, we can get something else. So, they have diesel. Hey, we can get something else. Hey, we have kerosene. We have this, we have that. Just from one source. It wasn't God who brought the other aspects that came out of the crude oil. Man, by studying the laws that had been placed in the crude oil, which laws cannot change because a sovereign God put those things in place. Do you get me? So, number 4. We've talked about 3 things, yes? The first one was what? The tree. The second one was what? The iron. The third one was what? Sorry? Crude oil. Now, can you add the rest yourself? If we want to go through everything, we won't finish. But I want you, when you go home, in the quiet time, sit down and ask yourself, yes, it's true. God created a tree. But man, because of what he wanted, made the table, made the chair, made the wooden products. Man made it. But he had to learn the laws that govern wood. Laws that have been placed in there by God. The final thing I want to say is this. Like I said, when you go home, you add the rest. Yes? This is the final thing I want to say. And I have intentionally placed it last because I want to challenge you. If the carpenter was able to predict what he saw in his mind, if he's able to use the wood that God has given him to bring to pass what he had in his mind, if all these people brought into being what they had in their minds, then the 4th thing we are going to talk about also, the responsibility isn't on God, but it's on us. Are you getting me? Was the responsibility on God to give us a table? But was the responsibility God's? He gave you wood, and he gave you the mind. He gave you, and then he placed within the wood laws that if you are able to study and know, these laws will obey you. So that whatever you want out of the tree would be possible. I'm going somewhere. That's why I'm saying all this. That's why I'm laying this foundation. Because what I'm going to say, if you think of it just in the open, what I'm going to say, you may even challenge me. Because you say, no, that is God's responsibility. It wasn't God's responsibility to give us diesel fuel. His was to give us crude oil. And then we study to bring to pass these various aspects to make our life easier. So, the 4th thing I want to say is this. God gave us life. But the various aspects of life isn't the responsibility of God. The original source is God. But you now have to study the laws he has put in this thing we call life. And then you design the life you want to lead. It is not God's responsibility to make you comfortable. But it is your responsibility to study the laws that he has put in life and to make your life comfortable. That is your responsibility. That is my responsibility. That is your responsibility. So when we go home today, if life is not what we expect, what do? Tap into the laws. And how do you get into the laws? 1, his word. 2, the things he's made, because this is the main reason for education. Listen. If we are not comfortable, it is not God's responsibility. Have I made it clear? Have I made it clear? It is our responsibility. Listen, we are the only people, we are the only creatures that God created that can change our situation. A pig, you clean a pig, make it clean, and then let it see a muddy pool somewhere. What would he do? The pig does not think to say, listen, I need to change my environment. God did not create any home from anyone. Human beings made homes for themselves by using the things that God has created. Because we are beings that think. The dog doesn't go to university. The dog hasn't got a school for the dogs. They don't think like we do. Why? Because God wants us to dominate the creation he has made. Because God did not create us to be automatic beings. God created us to say, if I'm not happy with this, then I need to change it. That is the reason why when your garden is bushy, you don't leave it to outgrow you. You do something about it. Because we are human beings. We are thinking beings. We change our environment. When it is cold, we change our environment to become comfortable. So we become comfortable. Please, have I communicated with us? This is what I mean by man within God's sovereignty. We'll continue next week.